Learning to Escape. Today, I'm honored to have a guest with me named Amner with Blue Sky Green Earth. He's located up in New Jersey, and he does the same thing pretty much that we do, fully electric lawn care. And again, we're glad to have him here. And Amner, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's nice to keep connecting. We connected through Instagram, I think, because I saw your Instagram post. Um, I was just
Yeah, I believe that
starting, and I
was.
think you were a couple. Well, you were definitely a few years in already when we met through there, because it was pretty cool to find someone else that's doing the same thing.
Right. Because it's very unique. That's for sure. I can't believe it's still so unique.
Yeah, we were like the unicorns at the beginning. That's what I said. At some times, I would tell people like, "Hey, I'm from the future." Just because people didn't understand what we were doing or anything like that. But yeah, it's still pretty amazing that we're a few out there, and I think it's starting to grow. When I'm logging into Instagram, I'm seeing some people starting to follow us, and then normally I ask them what cities. Pretty surprising. One of the biggest markets seems to be Florida.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there's plenty of sun there, but, you know, which is nice, for my, the solar stuff, but, people don't understand that now it's UV, so you can do it anywhere. But yeah, I figure solar, especially retirement communities and stuff like that, they really like not having that loud noise.
Loud noise, or a lot of them have breathing issues, so emphysema. So that's something that
Exactly.
those HOAs seem to really like, the lower noise, and then those fumes that most people don't think about. Most people think about the noise first, then the fumes.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're kind of marketing, I don't know if you're doing the same, but like retirement communities or assisted living, hospitals, schools, things like that, because they have to schedule their landscaping pretty much on like weekends, off days, or early in the morning, late at night. Where now, with our type of service, yours too, it could happen anytime.
Right.
I mean,
So
most people
so
don't even know you're there.
no, actually, that's actually the number one complaint that we get if we were to get complaints, and it's you guys are so fast. And it's like, no, trust me, it's taking us the same amount of time. It's not taking us longer, because it
Mm,
definitely doesn't take longer, and you know this. But it's taking us the same amount of time, and it's normally because if they're home, they may see us going through like by the window, and then that's the first time they saw us. But we've already been there, a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes before they realize that we're there, or they don't realize that we're there.
yes, I have that a lot. And people, working from home, especially too, they'll be on, just kind of like we're doing, or maybe even doing a podcast or something, and have headphones on too. So then they really hear nothing. And then I'll get a message like, "Are you guys still coming today?" And it's kind of like, "Have you walked outside?" I
Right.
don't really
Yeah.
say that, but it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's almost like, yeah, have you walked it out? Have you seen the property? Because a lot of times they just don't notice that we've been there. But it takes the same
right,
amount of time, and
right,
it's not that we're faster. I wish we were, right? Do the same work and
yeah,
and be faster. But yeah, that would be like the one complaint, if we were to call it complaint, because it's not about the work. It's about, so fast.
yes, yes. Now, I have a question. Did you work in gas landscaping before the transition, or was this something you just
No,
started
actually.
new?
Actually, the story is funny because working for a Fortune 500, that's what I did my whole entire life. And I did some consulting on the side because, being from Guatemala, I know a lot of people that had landscaping companies, and they really don't understand or have processes in place to maximize their profits. So I was doing consulting with them. But this was COVID time, and I happened to be on a Teams call, and I like to sit outside because that's the only thing we could do during COVID, right? I want to get some sun. I want to get some fresh
Right.
air, and I see my neighbor mowing his lawn, and I'm like, I gotta grab the laptop, and I'm gonna head inside because he's mowing his lawn, and he's got his big headphones on, and I see him walking, and I'm like, his mower's not making any noise. I gotta go tell him, like, to like, your mower's not on, thinking he hasn't realized that he hasn't turned on his mower. And then
Right.
as I'm getting closer, I see that it's a battery operated mower. And
Oh,
then
okay,
it
so it's
gets
like a that lived there and just mowing with his own mower?
yeah, my neighbor. Yeah. And then I'm like,
Oh, okay, gotcha, gotcha.
there's gotta be a market. There's gotta be a market for this. Um And then I started doing a little bit of research. And I started doing the research. I'm like, okay, well, I was thinking more on the noise end, right? And then the more deeper that we get into this, then we realize it's the noise, the fumes, and then the vibration of the equipment, so that we get to learn more about the impact on the employees, the impact on the actual homeowner also. So it's pretty amazing, like all the stuff that I've uncovered. On top of like, there's got to be a market because this is going to be quieter.
And I feel like it's almost more of a kind of a VIP service that it's launched into because customers can approach you at any time, not feel like you gotta shut something off or it's too loud, you're bothering them. All you gotta do is let go of a trigger or, push a button and,
Yep.
"Hey, how you doing?" And I mean, I noticed we get approached a lot more than we used to, and it's usually always positive stuff. Or, hey, do you mind doing this little extra area this time, or something like that? Where before they would have to call, wait to hear a response, all this stuff because they can never really approach us without feeling like they're messing things up for some reason. Because usually backpack blower, you got to take it off and then get back there and try and start it again. So I feel like it's
Yeah.
more
And then
VI, smell like gas.
I hadn't thought about it as a VIP service, but yes, because people would normally not approach you because you got this loud machine on you and it's dangerous, right? So people know it's dangerous. Now with these, yes, just let go of the trigger and you have a regular conversation without like, hold on a second or shutting it off. And so, yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that, but yes, yes,
Yeah. That's one of the big things I've noticed with, and it shows why my target is a little bit different because we were just kind of when I had dirt cheap lawn care way back, it was kind of all residential, some commercial stuff, but it was from a career change, COVID and all that. Well, before COVID, but during COVID is when I started same kind of story switching to the electric stuff because that's when things were starting to get released. But just noticing that just not stinking, not I mean, just not feeling so dirty. And so Dirt Cheap just definitely didn't fit into the name anymore. So that's why, of course, we switched over to E-Scapes. But I've just noticed also the attitudes from the customers and these HOAs now, the biggest HOAs, the nicest one on golf courses and stuff like that, are now reaching out to us. Before, the only way they would reach out to us is if we were going to be dirt cheap and they could get us way less than anyone else. Now it's not even a question about the price so much. It's about we want your look, your equipment, your sound that is minimal of nothing, and the smell. And we know we're helping the environment. There's just all those factors. So I think it's pretty amazing. And that's why we kind of, like the VIP thing.
yes, it
So
actually,
you can use that
I
too.
thank you. I will. Yeah, it's become a little bit like that where people realize, um, that they're getting the same type of service. So that's actually the first thing that people are afraid of. Like if I switch to these guys, are they going to be able to mow the lawn? Are they going to be able to do the same type of service? And yeah, we can do the same type of service. And honestly, we stay competitive on our price. Just because of the
Right.
areas that we're in,
Same.
we have to be competitive. There is no premium for being battery operated. And we do have some clients that say, you know what? I really support what you're doing, and they actually come and pay us more because they believe in it.
Yes. And our tips, like the ratio of tips, has risen so much since this.
Yes,
And
yes,
it's
because clients
amazing.
appreciate it. They got babies, or like again, we were talking about Florida. I guess Florida would surprise me. How many battery operated uh, landscapers they got now, and it's because they want to lower noise. And then again, the retirement communities with emphysemas and all those other additional breathing issues. And it's like, oh wow, I wouldn't have thought that Florida would be so ahead of the game, uh, considering all
Right.
things. And it's like, it's even like when I found you, like a guy in Georgia being all battery operated. That's interesting, and
Right. And
it
doing solar before Florida guys are doing solar. And that's what I
right.
didn't get either.
Right.
That still blows me
S-
away. But
Yeah. Oh, listen, between technology increasing drastically, even from when we started to now. We've had really good equipment all along, and next thing you turn around, it's like those improvements, and especially on the charging end, right? Where I think that's the bigger challenge in understanding that.
Now let's go into a little bit of that. I think one of the things that we really linked on at first when we were talking was the brand that we both chose to use, which was Ego. Had you tried some other brands before going with Ego like I did? Or
You
did you kind of
know,
just start with that one and actually get
I
lucky?
s- I got lucky because, well, first off, when I was looking at brands, one of the things was cost of batteries, and we know the cost of batteries, and how am I going to charge the batteries, and the flexibility of the batteries is what I liked. And my brother actually had an Ego mower, and he always bragged about his mower. And I'm thinking, well, he's younger than me, so I'm thinking, oh well, he's like a yuppie, so I'm thinking, it's got to be like an
Showing off.
iPhone or like a Tesla or, something like that.
Right.
It's got to be higher end. So let me take a look at this. And we
Yeah, you're
started
just
off with
paying for the name.
right. Well, so yeah, some of them, yes, I agree with you.
That's what you thought. Right.
No, I'm an Android person. So, I'm not I haven't
Same
moved
here.
over to, no, I haven't moved over to Apple. That's just the personal. I've had, the
Yeah.
Galaxy since the first one, but that's from my prior history also of selling phones. Um,
Oh,
but
right on.
uh, so the residential stuff, and then I still have quite a bit of the residential stuff. Obviously, we've moved over into the commercial equipment, which is awesome. But again, it's that battery flexibility. The issue at the beginning, and you've been a pioneer on the solar end. I haven't moved over to solar. Um, was charging, and how am I going to be able to charge, and having those batteries charged up. And at the end of the day, that was the issue. At the end of the day, coming and having all these batteries to charge, and it was like having a baby every 2 hours, getting up and changing the batteries to charge. Until now, we got
Hmm.
lucky with this PGX, which changes the whole ball game. But um, since then, I've
Yes, which is
had
like
the
a electric kind of generator that Ego makes that
yeah, that's
charges
the
these
they
batteries on the go
yeah
with
the
a big, massive battery.
yeah the power
Right,
bank.
just so people
Oh
understand
yes,
if they haven't looked it
yes,
up yet. But it is
yeah,
awesome. It is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Feel free to reach out to either of us because we're pretty well versed on that stuff, I think. But since
Absolutely,
then, I've had the
absolutely.
opportunity to test out a few other manufacturers. I think the challenge is still with some of the manufacturers, the battery, and not having a battery that's flexible enough to go across the all the tools. Where they still have some battery specific pieces of equipment. So that makes it a
Yeah, for
little
like
bit
backpack
challenging.
blowers.
Yes.
A lot of the backpack blowers I noticed will have a completely different battery than any of the other power tools.
Well, I'll tell you,
Where with Ego, it's the same batteries.
I like Palenque. I'm not sure if you heard of Palenque. They're a French company, and
No, I have not.
their backpack blowers are extremely quiet. They're a lot quieter than what we're used to. Love them. They have
Really?
a nice power. They don't have a full line of equipment. One thing, and even within the backpacks, you have different types of batteries, so it makes it difficult. So they make good equipment, but again, the economics of it. If you are going to have a business that's going to be more profitable, um, and easier, because if you take the wrong battery also out in the field, you're stuck. With the Ego, that's the one thing. Like, you're taking the battery and you can go because it's the same battery. So I got lucky starting off that way, and then lucky also been able to test a few pieces of equipment for them, which has been great. And they're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
sponsors
Same
of
here. I'm
yourself or
amazed.
myself, from to my knowledge, right? They definitely don't sponsor us.
Right. No, yeah, yeah. We're not
Yeah,
sponsored
yeah,
whatsoever. We never even really asked. I mean, we've talked about, hey, maybe want to put a nice wrap on our vehicle or something,
right.
But
Well,
yeah, I mean, we're not tied to anything of saying, hey, we
nope.
are stuck with Ego. We've
No,
just
we're not
chose them,
exclusive.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
we're not
they make
exclusive, and
quality equipment.
one of the learnings, like when we've talked about, like it would be cool to have a wrap that says ego on it on the side of the car and all
Right.
that stuff. And then I learned like why you wouldn't want to have the car branded like that or the truck branded like that. You get broken into. And God, we've already been broken into once, and
Really? Well, see,
yeah,
great point.
so
Great
so
point.
people like Ego is moving away from like when they do their events, putting the branding on their trucks. So now it's just like a blank truck. And then um, I learned it from a guy that works in with Milwaukee because they kept breaking into his truck. He said about 3 to 4 times a year. It was normal that they knew that they would break into the truck, and because of the branding. So after that, I stopped even trying to ask Ego like, "Hey, it would be cool to like co-brand and like promote you guys." I'm like, "No, I don't want to deal with that headache." so
Yeah.
so
That's a very good
learn,
point.
yeah, and so
That's a very good,
that's a
and we've
crazy
got a
thing.
big box truck that I haven't put anything on. It's just a big white box truck with, got that winch on the back to bring the gate down and stuff.
I
But I was like, what a
saw,
great big canvas. But you know what?
yes.
I might keep it a great blank canvas and let people
Oh,
just wonder what's
E-scapes.
in there,
Yeah. Oh,
you
that
know?
too. That too.
Yeah,
That too.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll put,
Yeah.
E-scapes and stuff on there. But yeah, I think telling people that I have battery powered stuff in there, yeah, might not be the smartest. We want to
Yeah.
keep an eye on it constantly.
Yeah.
But
It's a
yeah,
learning.
it's a good point. Didn't even think
Like
of it.
most things that we learn through this process.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, one thing, when we were talking about the batteries and the versatile batteries, one thing that I really liked that Ego came out with was the link system where you can wear. So if you don't want to put a 10 amp or 12 amp battery on your trimmer to go a long ways, which I don't know why you'd never need that on a trimmer, but still, or hedge trimmers or anything, but just to be
You
able to
don't.
wear one and then use that link system, how light and easy and flexible it is, and be able to, last all day long with that.
Have
But
you had the chance
some
to
of the guys like
test?
it. Some of them don't like it because they don't like to cut the cord like they have and then have to come back and explain how they did it. So maybe they can do a Bluetooth or something, but
Well, to your point,
but
well, first, have you tried the link system that has the two batteries? It has them stacked
yes.
one on top of the
Yes,
other.
we just got it. Yep.
Um, First, to your point, why would you put a 10 amp battery on the hedge trimmer? You wouldn't, right? So it's like one of those things. Like, why would you even use the link system on that one? The one that I found, the link system, because we did get a chance to test it early on, uh, was with the 1000 CFM handheld.
Mhm.
What happened there is I kept seeing one of the guys going back to it. He kept going back to it, and I'm like, okay, so, and he's like really the leader here. He's the one that understands the work the best out in the field. And I asked him why, and he said it's just so much easier to use once we get behind the beds and the bushes and everything. I don't have the backpack behind me, just the link, and it's just easier to get down lower, and it's faster for me to clean. So, so we made it a point now that we carry like two styles for definitely for the fall cleanups. But even once we get
Absolutely.
into the spring and summer where we're not blowing as much, it's normally the handheld, and then we'll have the backpack link if we're going to be using it for extended amount of time. So that's where the backpack link comes in handy.
Now, have you got any of the newer models of the batteries, like the 5s, and I think there was an 8 I got recently in the 7.5s, but they go so much longer. And now what our guys are doing, because still at some of these HOAs, even if it doesn't need edge, it's got to be edge. We need everything. So one guy will just be like, "Hey, I'm doing all the other stuff. You guys mow and blow," and then he'll be wearing the link system all day, and then that way he can come weed ear, edger, boom, hedger, boom, everything without putting any single battery into the machine, just link system every time. And he's running off a 5 amp or an 8 amp battery still all day. I mean, it's crazy. Whoever is making the new batteries for Ego is doing a good job because they last a lot
I
longer than those
have
old first
noticed,
generation, second generation.
I have noticed that those batteries they're supposed to be the same. It's just, I think a different manufacturer. I'm not sure exactly what the details are. So it's supposedly the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the one that's different that you mentioned that I wasn't sure if people were talking about was the 8 amp and the tablets, the one that you're talking about.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our season will start next week. I have used them on the snowblower, and the benefit that I know and I've heard, and I can't wait, is to try them with the power bank because they're supposed to charge up like in about 20 minutes from what I heard in the power bank.
Nice.
So that
Nice.
changes it even more. And supposedly it lasts twice as long or something like that. Obviously we're not privy to a lot of that information. We just get to test some stuff
Right.
sometimes. But supposedly 20 minutes on that power bank, that's changes a lot of stuff, but more on the mowers when we need the battery on the mower,
Absolutely.
and then in the fall when we're doing the cleanups. But yeah, that's gonna be fun to test those out. So they'll start getting some workout soon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome because I mean, just like, Crest was one of them that sent us stuff to work with, and it wasn't that the equipment was great, like the saws, the tree saws, everything that we had got was wonderful, and the fact that it was an 8-minute recharge on the battery, but still the battery is so huge and heavy. And I know they make like a nano version, but I
Now
haven't
they
been
do,
able
yeah.
to test or try it. And I didn't want to, go buying that when we have got everything ego already. So, we use the crest if we need it, for something extra high or something, but it's just, man, it'll wear you out with that big heavy battery. But charging it in 8 minutes is pretty amazing, especially when it keeps
Yeah,
a charge.
and Crest is really good. I mean, from the exposure that I've had with the equipment, it's really good. The one thing about the 8-minute charge, I think at some point you're paying for something that you don't really need. L- Uh, the way that I think about it is, okay, on a 5 amp battery that we just spoke, with the backpack link, it lasts almost all day. So let's say it didn't last all day. Let's say it lasted 2 hours, and you have another 5 amp battery ready to go. There's no need to have an 8-minute charge when you can have 30-minute or even an hour if you wanted to exaggerate, which it doesn't take an hour. But at a certain point, and I think Chris is more like a premium priced piece of equipment. They definitely do put out some good stuff, but it would be one of those things like as you're doing your research. If anyone's planning on that's listening to us planning on switching from gas to battery, do your research on the battery platforms, not just the price, the battery platforms and how you're going to charge without having to upgrade your electrical also, right?
Right. Right. Because, I mean, when you say an 8-minute charge and it's coming off of another larger battery that's doing it
Yes.
mobile, is
Yes.
that 8-minute charge making that larger 1500 or whatever battery that's on it, is it making it deplete it quicker? And then how are you going to recharge that one unless you've got, solar or something that's going to be charging it? So, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, make sure to
Right.
do the research because it might be better to have the slower charge and not use up all your spare battery that charges everything if
Yeah.
you're just
And,
getting a
and
quicker charge.
right. And it's like I can see the point in like on electric cars where you want a fast charge because you're used to going to the gas station and getting a fast charge, right? But on something like that, and I've considered it like, okay, 8 minutes sounds really good. Um, but do I really need it to be 8 minutes? Because the battery that I'm using is I'm gonna use it for, like in your case, almost all day. And on the 5 amps, yes, I have noticed that they can go almost all day on for doing the whole route, almost the whole day on a 5 amp. Anything that's not blowing, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, no
uh,
blowers or
it,
mowers.
it
Push mowers,
interesting that you meant,
however, a little different.
yeah. Interesting that you mentioned that because I hadn't noticed it, but I hadn't paid attention to it. That they do last almost all day.
Yeah, yeah, I've been pretty impressed. Now, on one of the things people, tell me and chats and stuff like that. They're like, well, you act like you're so clean and everything, but what are you doing with all these lithium batteries? But in my experience, in the 5 years, I guess that we've been with, using these ego batteries, three batteries have died. Like, that haven't been able to get back revived. 3 in 5 years. So how much of a footprint am I really making compared to gas machines?
I agree.
And the
I've had the
batteries are
issue with
this
one.
big.
Yeah, I had the issues with one,
Yeah,
and then I
see?
went on the internet and I
Now
saw someone
Ryobi,
jump
that's a whole
starting it.
different story. Yeah.
I managed to jumpstart it and it started working. So, and that's why I was like
Oh,
knocking
that's
on wood.
awesome.
We're going on the 4th season and still haven't had battery issues. So,
Mhm.
that's the thing that I think most manufacturers are saying like 1,200 recharges or something like that. So even if you divide it by 300, that's like 4 years right there if you're using it 300 days a year, which we don't. Uh,
Right.
So to me, that speaks a lot to the build quality of the battery and then their equipment. So, and then the other thing is, at least on my end, where when you're talking about ego, you flip it to the side. There's an 800 number there, and they tell you exactly where you can recycle it. When people do that,
Yeah.
it's
Or
just
tell you how to
finding.
reset it. Did you
Yes,
know about resetting them? I
yes,
didn't
yes.
until I'd met with Tim. He's like, you can push it and hold it, and then it resets.
Really?
After
S-
all these
You
years,
did?
what?
You didn't know that? That's one of the like things that I learned a long time ago.
I'd seen some videos of people dropping them on the ground and stuff like
No,
that.
that's just crazy.
And he's like,
But yes,
yeah.
you can
I was
drop
like,
them on
no,
the
I'm not
ground.
doing that.
The dropping on the ground, I got a story on that one. One battery flew out at 40 miles an hour. And we go, and it actually flew out with the 1,000 CFM handheld blower. We don't know how. And, but we heard it. We turned back around. Nothing happened to the blower and nothing happened to the batteries. Yeah, obviously some scratches, but that tells you like, okay, it's well built. But yeah, there's an 800 number right
Yes.
there. Uh, Again, um, there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of just people saying things.
Hmm.
But then what are you doing when you're with your phone? Don't you think the battery gets recycled? What are you doing with your laptop? Don't you think it gets recycled? Like it's an excuse, uh, and it's like trying to
Exactly.
find something to pick at.
Yeah. What would you say the biggest negative feedback you get from, I guess, the haters out there? Of course, there's like I said, people say, are you carrying an extension cord around? But I just want to hear, what your things are that you get told and see if they're pretty much the same as me.
God, we've probably heard all the same stuff, right? But I would say the funniest one, and this is to me that's the one that sticks in my head, is because we do get requests to get on city council meetings, town council meetings, and environmental commissions. And there was one in Texas, and I can't remember the city, but anyway, it doesn't matter the city. Um, the guy gets on and is like, yeah, but you guys are in the Northeast and our leaves are here different here because they're bigger. And I said, of course everything is bigger in Texas, because people will find any excuse. And then even within New Jersey, we got Princeton, Montclair, and Madison. Those are three big markets. And
Hmm.
an hour difference. And then I was talking to some people in Montclair, and they're like, "Well, but our leaves are different here. We're Tree City, USA." I'm like, "Well, Princeton's been Tree City, USA for like over 30 years, and they got the little mountains, and they got like so." People do find excuses for anything.
Absolutely.
As far as haters, I wouldn't call them haters. I would call them um,
Skeptics, maybe.
unknowledged people that have not done the research, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
$7,000 for a blower. I've heard $60,000. So crazy dollar amounts that it makes me laugh. But then again, like these people really do believe these things. And to me, it's like, listen, we haven't done any marketing in 4 years. And if you want to continue doing your thing, do your thing. Take advantage of the us that have already been doing this. We're experts now because we've been doing it for so long that you should maybe take some feedback, or eventually it's all going to go there. So why not start learning the process and move that way, um, instead of
Yep. It's
hating.
not an if,
Uh,
it's a when.
yes, and the majority of people that we're getting, it's not because it was mandated. It's because they want it. They want the lower noise. They don't want the fumes coming in. So it will go there. Like we were talking about Crest earlier on. And one thing I like about Crest is, I don't know if you've seen their autonomous mower, commercial mower. Um, 60 grand, that's a little, a little steep. But then you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
How much do I pay an employee? Because then this is just on the battery end, right? So how much do I pay an employee? Um, it's not going to get sick on me. It's always going to do the same consistent work. You know, yeah, you're reducing headcount, but the headcount you can use in other things on the gardening end, right? Or you can use, so you have this technology there. And so I started doing the math, and I'm starting to think on the return on investment. Well, you know what? It almost makes sense. Obviously, it would make sense at 40K. A lot better than 60, but obviously that's where the technology is going. And if the haters would start just listening a little bit. Listen, it's not my job and or my thing to want to switch you over. What I want to do is tell you what I know. Because even if, let's say, Princeton, for example, came around and said, we want the landscapers to be all battery operated, all electric. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the capacity to take care of a whole town, right? So in Spanish, we say el sol sale para todos. So the sun rises for everyone. So why not share my information?
What I keep explaining to people, like, why are you giving away your secrets and stuff? It's like, you don't understand. The world is evolving. Just like, we can't all switch to electric cars all of a sudden. It'd be a nightmare. We can't switch to everything electric. But if you go and look at the facts of how much I have made versus when I was, doing gas, in not just, the efficiency of, not paying for gas or oil or the parts and stuff, but not having to have a mechanic on hand or be a mechanic myself and not be out there promoting and stuff, having to fix this stuff because of a bad mix of oil and gas or just getting bad gas. Or, of course, you always got seals and stuff like that that's always breaking down. Carburetors that are clogging up. I mean, those little pennies add up quick. And then there's always the excuse of going to the store to get gas. And then everyone's, oh, well, I'm going to get a fifth energy drink, another something to eat, blah, blah. And then, they're spending everything they're making and they're doing like, 2 or 3 stops a day rather than now the vehicle gets gas at the end of the day, ready to go the next morning. Guys bring their lunch and they go out and they knock out a bunch, or they'll stop and just have lunch. But there's not all these other stops, which is time and money. There's just so many things that make it efficient. And I think that's the big catch for landscapers. Regardless of all the good you're doing and the good you're doing for your employees' hearing, environment, and everything, a lot of these guys are looking at money and looking at return on investment. So if you go get this $7,000 mower, you know how quick you can make that $7,000 back by not doing all the stuff you're doing with your X mark and cutting with a machine that, I mean, these things, they cut and move just as well as the X marks I had. I had X marks, walkers, you name it. I sold them all.
And the thing with it is not necessarily what I think is most people, and this is where I started when I started with the landscaping, not the company, but when I was doing some of the consulting, is most people don't understand how you can increase your profits, right? It's those efficiencies. And that's the Slurpee run, depending on how much of a crew you're running, whether you're running a 2-person crew or a 3-person crew. And the Slurpee run, that's what I call it. And it turns into a 45-minute deal. You multiply by 3 people, payroll. So you're looking at all of that stuff, or the Home Depot run because something went bad on one of the pieces of equipment, and it's not one person that goes; it's the two or three people that go, and now it
Right.
becomes almost an hour and a half, 2 hours later. So there's all those efficiencies that come along with it, right? And you know, if I were transitioning, I would definitely start with a couple of pieces here and there, and then the employees start getting a hang of it. You put in a string trimmer on someone's hand for a week, and then tell them to use gas the next week, and let's see what they say. Yeah,
Exactly. I have
and
employees that go and do stuff at their parents' house or something and use their equipment there and come back, and I'm like, I didn't realize how good we have it, because they forget how much easier it is. Their hands aren't vibrating.
and it's instant on, instant on. And that's one of those
Yep.
things like you can throw it in the back of a car. So you had an issue, you can just throw it on any type of vehicle because you're not going to be spilling
Yeah, it's not
anything
gonna
in there.
stink the place up.
Right.
Yep.
So it's not going to like you got to ride with the windows down because you got all this gas smell and then everything's spilling in the car. So I wish more people would listen to more than just the one part, like switch over to battery. And like, listen, you can make a lot more money even doing the same thing,
And enjoying it so much more. Even
enjoying
even
it
some
so
of the
much
guys
more.
will come be and like, I could only listen to music when, I was, because one of my guys was with me, with when we were gas and stuff, and it always, just be listening to music, jam and stuff, which I love to do too when I'm out. But then, with the podcast era getting so big and different things, and people like to listen to podcasts. Well, now with these machines, they can hear them perfect, and they're like, I can never listen to a podcast with the old stuff because it was always so loud, even with my headphones. So it's pretty
That
funny.
is
It's like,
that's
I didn't
hilarious
really
that you
think
say
about that.
that. That's hilarious that you say that because, and then I guess offline we can talk about this. Because that's what I've been doing a lot, listening to podcasts, and it's given me some ideas on how to improve the business and what I'm doing. And because of some podcasters that I've been listening to lately, and one of them actually you've already noticed the change because you mentioned it when you reached out, and I'm thinking, huh, it definitely is making an impact. And that was on social media, and how we're taking care of that now. But it's interesting, and I came because of a podcast that I was listening to. Because yeah, it was music, and then it's like, no, I can be twice as productive now.
Yeah. Can even take a phone call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, it's crazy. And there's just so many benefits. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But, that's kind of, my goal is I want to, keep teaching, growing the crews. And, we've talked about franchise and things like that. Um, but, really getting out there and teaching others to get over the myths and everything that they think or they're hearing, and understand that, this is the future, like it or not, because of the efficiency and all the other things, the environmental impact and the hearing, for all the reasons. It's not an if, it's a when it's going to happen. So why not get ahead of the game? And the technology's there and it's only going to improve. So it's kind of silly, especially if you're starting a new landscape business. I would say probably the worst decisions would be to go out and buy gas equipment,
Yes. For sure.
research electric and start fresh new
Yes.
with electric equipment.
Yes. If you're
And
starting, yes,
there's so many ways to
definitely.
charge it.
If you're starting, it definitely for sure start battery operated right away. If you are gas, it's like, how do I transition? And they can read your book. You have a book that you put out, and you know what? Everything that you put in that book, and it's about a year and a half, maybe the book. Everything that you put in the
Yeah, we
book,
just
and
started
we
the
had
second edition.
okay, and we hadn't discussed a lot of the things, but your experience was almost the same exact experience that I had, return on investment at that point, I was, between 12 and 14 months. Now it's down to like 9 months. Um, Obviously, because we have more properties, more clients, so it's a faster return on the investment. That battery gets turned a lot more. The equipment gets used a lot more. So, the return on investment is a lot faster than when I started, and when I'm sure when you started also. So that second edition is probably going
Absolutely.
to be
In
lower.
advertising budget, there's not much you have to
Right.
advertise with this because you get so much word of mouth. People seeing you taking pictures as they're driving by or videos and just like,
Yes.
wow, I haven't seen that. And next thing you know,
No,
you're
you
getting
you
a
feel
call.
good when someone takes a picture. Yeah, you feel good when someone takes a picture, and you already know they're taking a picture, not for anything bad. They're taking a picture like, I need to call these people.
Mm, right. If it was gas, you would think they're taking a picture because you're doing something wrong. You wouldn't think,
Yes.
like, why would
Nope.
they be taking a picture or a video of me? But now it's like
Right.
all the time and you don't think anything of it. It's just like, hey,
No. Let me pose for you.
show them, you know? Yeah, yeah,
Eh,
exactly, exactly. Oh man. Well, if there was one thing that you could go back, let's say 5 years, and tell yourself, or maybe in your case it'd be less. Is there something that sticks out, something that you've learned through this process that maybe you would change and do different?
Okay, so the one thing that I would change is maybe the electric truck, because I think that was a bit ambitious to start off. It wa- um,
Mm-hmm.
and just because we didn't realize that our market would expand. So, you have some battery charging issues when it comes to the truck. Um,
So
but
you
other
started
than
with an electric truck?
the Lightning, right? I started Lightning
Really?
and Ego, yeah. So it was Lightning and Ego, and
Wow.
that's why you have a van, which is gas, because the vans don't have the battery range to go battery. Otherwise, I probably would have gone battery with the van, even though I'm saying my lesson would have been that. But that's because I didn't realize that we would be expanding our market. Otherwise, had it been just to that area that we originally targeted, there wouldn't be any issue. Now, not necessarily that I would go out and back and tell myself. It's the annoying thing, and I think at some point we may have discussed this, the lack of information that the manufacturers have out there. Um, because they like
Absolutely.
we discussed a few manufacturers already, and even Ego does a poor job with getting all the information out there that they have. Um, I had interaction even with reps where I know more than the reps, and it's one of those things like, come on, guys, like you have really good equipment, you have great batteries, and the
Right.
information's
There's
not
so
out there,
much.
and it would be more like these manufacturers need to get the dropping the ball on getting a good, let's say, webinar or good information out there for someone to start making good informed decisions as to what manufacturer they want to use, why they should select certain pieces, because a traditional landscaper has X mark for mowing, Echo maybe for the blower, and steel for their
Yeah, Echo or
chainsaws.
Steel, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So they have different manufacturers for their pieces of equipment. If you did that with battery, then you really truly would be spending a lot of money, and you would be trying to upgrade your electric. You would be doing some crazy things to try and make it happen the same way that you make it with gas. So I would say it's pretty much a call out to the manufacturers, because you know when you listen to someone explain a battery, they tell you this is or like 4,400 kilowatt hours. And you're thinking, wow, so I only need one battery to work the whole day, and that's going to work on my mower for, you know, hours and hours. And I'm probably going to have like a whole year's charge of 4,400 kilowatt hours or
Mhm.
whatever it is. And it's like, no, speak our language and say,
Right.
this is a 10 amp battery. If you were to put this on a string trimmer, you probably wouldn't be able to use it the whole week on a string trimmer.
Mhm. But you put
Obviously,
that
you wouldn't.
2.5 on there, it's a whole different story.
Right, right, right. And it's explaining and using our language. We're out in the field. explain it like a normal person and not like a PhD, right? Um, so I think that's where the that's when the recommendation, like going back, it's like I wish manufacturers had more information out there. I got lucky with what I selected. Obviously doing some research, but good lucky with what I selected. Um, and that would be key, I think. And then hopefully, people continue reaching out to you and to me. Have scaled back on doing presentations when it comes to council meetings and environmental commissions, just because I feel like it's very repetitive to me. It's become repetitive to me. And the misinformation, it's the same misinformation everywhere, everywhere. And it's misinformation. It's not like it's accurate information. It's just like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I mean, people
please,
saying that we're going to use customers' power to charge
you
and
know,
stuff, you know,
and
and
that's a
a
fear
lot of people think
tactic.
that that's what's going to happen.
And that's a
And
fear
it's
tactic.
like, okay, well, mm-hmm.
It's a fear
Like it's
tactic.
going to cost us more.
If you didn't do your proper research, you might end up doing that, and that's just poor planning on your end as a
Bingo.
owner.
Yeah. And
So
that goes back to the research,
yes, and goes back to the
doing more
research because yeah,
research.
we've had clients to tell us like, hey, if you need to use the house to charge, go ahead and charge. Actually, talking about stories, I had someone reach out to me saying, "Hey, listen, I don't need your service. I have a Rivian." They actually like told me like everything that they had, and
Uh,
I have an electric battery operated mower, so I don't need your service. But if you ever need to charge your car or your equipment, just drop by my house and charge here. Which is it was pretty cool. People just
yeah.
randomly reaching out, offering their charger and to charge equipment there, which is it's things that happen that make people nice and it makes you smile. Like it makes you feel good.
Bingo. Yeah. I agree. Another thing, going on back where you had said, where you had started with the electric truck, I was contemplating that back in the day, where I hadn't really seen Rivians yet. But I was even thinking, looking at a Tesla truck, and I'm writing, saying, "Hey, Elon, you can shoot me a truck if you want, and we'll advertise for you." But I didn't think about. Well, I did, in a way, but I was thinking, in the future, and we'll let the technology grow. We'll see how everything is, with the electric trucks. I didn't want to trust on battery. So that's why, because I had ended up building this solar boat that worked, because for some short period of time before I had started landscaping again, I worked for this little company making these little solar lights for flags. And then I learned
Okay.
how solar panels go in and charge batteries. I was like, well, okay. So I started doing that and hooked a bunch of trolling motors onto the back of this boat. And I mean, I had 4 trolling motors all hooked up with little light switches that ran off different batteries running in series. It was freaking awesome. But I was like, I can do that onto these trailers. And at the time, I was just using, the first things that were out, which I think was the Atlas from Harbor Freight trimmer and push mower. But, I was using the inverter of the truck to
Oh,
charge the
yeah.
chargers. And so it worked for those machines, and those would be kind of my backup machines or my use real quick. But when it came to getting, the first zero turn, it's like, okay, I really got to rethink this. And then that's when we started with the solar. But the guys starting out now, they don't have to get into, spending all the money on, the PGX or solar and all that stuff. If they need to start small, just do a few, bits of equipment, do the research, and get inverters are not expensive now, and they can run
Correct.
it through their truck. Or even if you're going through like EcoFlow or something like that, where you've got your electric generator, they have alternator chargers. So it plugs into your battery, and then as your vehicle's running, it's sending a charge to that EcoFlow. And then that EcoFlow will sit there and run stuff just like the PGX does and
Right.
charge, a whole set, you know, so there's so many other options than having to throw all this money into, you know, starting, taking some big loan to, again, we say the return on investment still is incredible, but it's still, you got to be smart about how you're doing it. And that's why we kind of, want to do the course and do the book to say, learn from our mistakes. because we bought
Yeah.
inverters that weren't powerful enough, didn't get the right solar, charging systems, didn't get the MPPs. We, all sorts of different things that we learned throughout it. And that's why I'd be happy to let other people learn, hey, skip the crap we went through. Here's why we're not doing that, and get this. And then we're going to start a store to where people can actually get the products that we use from our
Good.
store. We'll get discounted rate on it. So I'm excited about that to get going.
Now that you're mentioning EcoFlow, the other day, I was talking to the TOA rep, and which would
Uh,
be something that's a
I got one of
piece
those.
that's a piece that some people should consider if they're not going with Ego, because Ego, everything is like right there, right? And that
Right.
ecosystem for Ego is there. But with TOA, and then I think EcoFlow is part of what they're using for their new charging on the go and for their solar panels and all that stuff. I got the catalog the other day. But it was interesting to see, like, okay, being around this stuff, it's like, okay, well, you didn't really make this, you just really adapted it or have it manufactured to your specs. But it was the EcoFlow battery that I could see in there.
Yeah,
Interesting,
and then
but
it was the TOA like distribution box.
yes.
Yeah, because we've got one and I love it. I think it's a really cool idea. But my only problem that I'm having, especially if I use it with the Ego products, because of how much draw those chargers take, it will switch back and forth from if you have two things plugged in. And so, when that charger turns on, then it takes a minute and starts charging the batteries.
Right.
But then if it shuts off, it's going to be resetting again and
And
it's
it just
trying to
keeps
charge
on.
something else. Yeah, and so that's the issue I was having with it. But I think it's a brilliant little machine. But yeah, I think it's got to be specific for certain things.
Yeah.
Or, they've got maybe, I'm sure, different versions. And I know they have battery packs and stuff too that store energy that go
Yes.
along with that
Yep.
system. So that, we didn't have with that. We only had the distribution box.
Right.
So it was charging our stuff, but had no, we have our own separate
Storage
battery
unit.
system
Right.
that it wasn't charging.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
But
it's yeah, and I say learn from our eagerness and not maybe mistakes, right? Because even with that
right.
eagerness,
Not
even
mistakes.
if even with that eagerness, I still love the lightning. It's great. Um, just as an initial investment, I'm thinking like, okay, well, that was not the smartest idea. Plus, we were coming out of COVID, as I was telling you, and the car dealer's like, yeah, this is how much it cost, and it happened to be the right color, and it was right there in stock, and that's when nothing was in stock. And just because we charge a $10,000 dealer fee extra on top of sticker. So yeah, because that's how crazy things were. And it was like, no, but if I want to start this and I want it to I want to make sure it's all battery, this is what I need. So it was the, yeah, that would be one thing. But again, going back, it's do your research. You can reach out to us because we obviously done quite a bit of research, and we've talked to quite a few manufacturers already, right? And for the manufacturers, like, put something out there that is plain English. Put it out in plain English so that people can understand. And there are a lot of cool pieces of equipment. You mentioned Atlas. Battery operator equipment is very good. I mean, hey, you're not missing out on power. Like, yeah, and you may get some knockoff brand from Temu, right? that your
Right.
your ride-on mower is going to be this big. But um,
Yeah. Or the machine will work great for a day, but then the battery, once you charge it, it doesn't charge again or something like that, because that's
right,
been the
right, right.
biggest thing with using other equipment. Just the batteries are just being garbage.
Yes.
And that was,
So
kind of my Ryobi thing. I loved Ryobi for power tools, but I wasn't using the power tools as much as I'm using lawn tools. So when I tried the Ryobi push mower,
uh,
I got through like half a lawn. It was like,
yes,
nah, I'll get rid
yeah.
of this.
There are a lot of good manufacturers out there, and like I was saying, Plank is one that you weren't aware of. Um, and their pricing is not e- not the least expensive either. So they're not definitely
Yeah.
not cheap, but they do put out good equipment. So most manufacturers are putting out good equipment out there. So don't be afraid. You know, the power's there. The power's there, and it's just
Yeah. I mean,
understanding.
people ask me all the time. I'm like, well, I love my VR 600. The steels, and I had, I think I had 5 of them at the time when I started getting the Ego 800s, before the 11 came out, um, which I still like the 800. That's still I like that guy.
You
The
know,
1100 is just still a little bit different, but
it's hilarious. Um, and this is, I guess, a really cool thing because we can see our reactions, and we haven't even talked about this. I have found the same thing looking at the guys. Normally, like, why do you keep pulling the 800? I feel like it's better. And like, well, it's 800 versus 1100. They still like that. And I I did call someone, and I was telling them, like, have you had this experience where the 800 seemed, and they thought I was talking about the 880. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about the commercial, the 800. The 800
mhm.
versus the 1100, and it's the guys prefer the 800. And so the power's there.
Yeah, it's lighter, it's not bulky, and
Yeah.
they really like the design of it. Yeah, I know they did, some extra things with, the higher back
Yeah.
brace and 7
Yeah.
then they did cut a hole in it finally, so that way you can hang it, but I find it more I don't know, well, all the guys just find it more like they feel like a machine kinda, and they don't feel comfortable. And when they're out there for so long, they need to feel comfortable. And that 800 is
Yeah.
comfortable and it's got plenty of power. And it
Yeah.
seemed
That,
like
and
also on 1100, when you use the boost, your battery would go a lot quicker than it would on the 800. And I don't know why, and it could just be in all of our heads, but
some things
I don't
are in
know.
our heads
To
because
each their own.
some things are in our heads. Like I will use the 800 with one battery, and there's guys that want to put the two batteries on, and I feel like, oh, you just went back at the same time that I went back. It's like, but
I do
a
the
lot of
same
mental
thing.
stuff. Really?
I do one battery, Yep. I think two batteries, for some reason, I think it just takes them both down and it's heavier. It's like, why not just do the
Yeah,
one?
but
But if I'm going somewhere
and
far,
it's
I'll take a two for just in case, but I won't click it in.
right. Yeah. Yep. I won't click it in. Same thing.
Yep.
It's like the
That's
ride
funny.
on. One of the guys, Jose. He's, like I said, he's the main person, and with the ride-ons, and I would just put plop the batteries in and that stuff, and then he would come after me, like, open up and check the sequence on the batteries, and then he would change the sequence on the batteries. And I'm like, why do that? It lasts longer this way. And I'm like, it's still the same batteries, and it's still. He's like, no, I just feel like it lasts me longer this way. So it's
Well, that's
hilarious
funny.
that in that,
That's
and
funny.
I back.
Even though
This is
they're
a
all
couple
the
years ago.
same amperage,
No, because
like
at
the
that
two were
point,
the same
when
amperage, or were they?
like 7.5s, 10 and 12s, let's say a mix.
Ah, I gotcha.
Because when we were starting, it's like whatever battery you can use, that's what you got to pop in there.
Uh-huh.
Not all 12s, not all 10s. And so he had his thing, like, no, 7.5 goes in the middle on this one, and it goes down here on the other one. And it's like, you do your thing. If you feel like it's going to last longer that way, go for it. But it shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But yes, like, same thing with the 800. Only one battery, and, like, yes, if I'm gonna go a long way, I'll pop the other one in. Won't click it in. That's
And one
hilarious.
thing I would love to have a comment, maybe if it'd be great if, someone with ego, is watching this, a comment back because I've heard kind of mixed things, but in the zero turns, you've got all 6 batteries that it's, even if you're doing 4, but to always stay with the same amp. So if you're doing 10 amps or if you're doing 12 amps, don't put a 10 in with a bunch of 12s, or when they're all syncing together, they're going to go with that lower one. I
I
don't know if
have
that's true
heard
or
that.
not,
Yeah, and
but
I don't know
I
where
would
I
love
heard
to
it.
know the real science.
Yeah, I have heard something to that effect, that they all try to level down to the same, so it's gonna drain the ones that have more first, and then be level. I have heard that, and I don't even know where I heard it. But yeah, it would be good to get that
Yeah.
information, because I
Yeah,
would
because
just
they all
think
got the
it's
battery beams, so they got the battery management systems in there, so I guess they can talk to each other.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the next things I want to start exploring more, the Bluetooth technology that's in all of these machines, because
Yes.
at first it was just being developed. So, when you went on, I couldn't really do anything with it. But now I hear it's really gone crazy. So that's my next thing I'm going to start studying into, of what all you can do with the Bluetooth on these
I
Ego machines.
I think once they get that up and running, and I say get that up and running, I'm not sure if they do or not. It would be interesting to incorporate it so that we can look at productivity better. Like you'll be able to kind
Right.
of even look at. They say you can look into the battery, how many more life cycles it has, and all that stuff, and usage, and it's gonna be interesting once that really takes off or is easier for us to use, I guess.
Yeah, because someone even put in a comment, have you put it on the turbo mode? And this talking about the 30-inch push. They said, have you tried to go into the Bluetooth and put it on turbo mode yet? And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that, because you have a turbo, on there, the one
Right.
and two.
Right.
But he was talking like there's a whole other thing that you can go into through the Bluetooth. I don't know why you'd really even need it stronger, but still, that's just something that, I haven't got to explore yet. And it was weird to have someone
No.
else commenting back to me about it, since they have started releasing that 30-inch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't
I
know.
like
That's
that.
that's going to
I
be my
like that 30
next
inch.
goal.
I like that 30 inch.
Thing is bad. It is bad. I
Yep.
love it. I'll use it for some
When
yards that I could do a zero turn, just because it's so cool and it works so well.
y- yeah, you look at some of the comments, in the multiple groups out there, and everyone's always asking for 30, 30, 30, and it's like, well, it's there. And, we did get a chance to test it out before the season ended last year, so
Hmm.
it was really good. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
dual
hopefully people get
blades
to
to
use it.
mulch with a push. It reminded
I
me of
like.
my Ferris, when I had a Ferris that I could just kind of chomp leaves instead of,
Yes.
having to, go around. I could just chomp them because of the stand on. And so the Ferris, that in this 30-inch push is kind of the same. You can just, like Pac-Man, chomp these
Yes.
leaves, and
Yep.
is awesome.
The
Absolutely awesome.
Some of the dumbest things are just little things that just I get giddy about, right? It's a side discharge and how sturdy that clip is when you put the side discharge on there.
Yes.
That thing just like clamps
Yes.
it. It's like it's amazing. It's like mm, I think it's one of the best things since sliced bread for that thing, and it's just
Right.
amazing.
I think that Ego, who helped design this, a lot of this equipment, were definitely landscapers, or knew a lot about it, because even like with, being able to push a button and restring your trimmer. I mean, come on, that is so simple, because you know how horrible it can be to restring the thing, taking the head off and trying to get the head back on, and
Yeah.
end up wearing it out. But also, one thing that I've noticed is, when the moving to commercial, the residential, we got so used to using the residential trimmers that the guys rarely, some of the new guys will use the commercial trimmers, but a lot of the guys will go back to the residential ones, because it has the angle at the bottom that they're used to, where the other one is just pretty much straight down. And then also the way the string goes opposite direction. So
Yes.
therefore, they can, if they want to edge with it, they can walk forwards. I know we've talked about this before,
Right.
being able to edge and not have to walk backwards and worry about running into a mailbox or a car, so you really get used
Car.
to that. And then when you go and get the commercial one, then you're hitting yourself right in the
Mm,
face.
right.
So,
Right.
it's, there's, and that's another thing that goes into the research of, if, you're going to have a company like this, don't think that you have to stick to everything commercial. Try some things out. I mean, and it's going to be easy to find some residential ones on Facebook Marketplace, because these people will buy electric,
They
stuff,
buy
and
it
be
for the
like, "Oh, this is
battery.
going to be great," and then they're like, "No, I'd rather have." Yeah, or they'll buy it and then decide, "No, what? I'm not going to do lawn care anymore. I'm going to, because they're homeowners. They're like, we're going to go ahead and hire a service." And I've even bought equipment from people that hired us, and they're like, "Hey, well, we got an Ego zero turn in here. You want to buy it?" But it's just so. I mean, you can find those residential trimmers not all the time, and get one, and just see
Yep.
which way works best for you. But I know most of my
Yep.
guys, they will pick up a residential before a commercial just for that reason. But the commercial, of course, is more sturdy, and especially I love the way they're changing, with the hedge trimmers, like the long ones, the extended ones, with the carbon fiber and everything. I mean, now,
Oh, yes.
I can use
Yep.
that thing like a chainsaw, going through like clearing uh, the retention ponds and stuff like that. I can go through and just zoop, zoop, zoop in places that, I can't take a machine, and just go through and just, I mean, it's amazing. You got to sharpen it afterwards,
Yes.
but
Well, yeah, it's again, going back to this, it's the power is there, and I wish there was more information out there for people to make better informed decisions, but we've been through this, so I'm pretty confident that we could help people just understand, like, where do I start? Although I have gotten calls like, "Where do I start?" Well, how many properties do you have? "Oh, no, I'm just starting." Like, listen, I'm not here to build your business. If you,
right.
that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Consulting on a business,
Yeah.
that's a whole different
Well,
story. But if
or if
you're,
you're doing that, at
like,
least be more specific with a question.
yes,
Like,
yes, yes,
which weed trimmer should I get? Hey, we can give you some yes or no's, no problem.
right,
But
right,
yeah,
right,
how to get
yeah,
clients.
yeah,
That's
yeah. How do I get clients? And well, with us, it's easier to get clients because they are coming to us, right? And they're calling, they're saying, "Hey, I want that lower noise. I don't want those fumes coming in." So it's selling itself automatically without having to compete. And that's the other thing for landscapers. Normally, you're competing a race to the bottom on pricing, right?
right.
Because everyone's trying to compete for the property, and they keep lowering the price to so in reality, I think prices are artificially low. They should be higher for the type of works that we do. Even just for mowing, it should be higher. But it's just been because everyone's competing on the same thing and they're not anything different. So you can have a better price structure, still be competitive without killing yourself and killing your margins. Plus, you're going to gain it because that return on investment is going to be there. So,
Yeah, and you're something unique and sought after.
and we're going
So
to be
trying to
unique and
embrace
so,
that part.
and we're gonna be unique. I say I give it another 3 years before there's like dime dozens out there, which is fine. Which is perfectly fine. But I always say like, hey, by the time you guys catch up, I'll probably be going on 10 years with a company, and it's gonna be with my eyes closed that I can pick equipment, and that is gonna make me still even better than what you're doing because you're just starting because you were a hater.
Exactly. So it's right, because you doubted.
Right, right.
So what would be your kind of ideal situation? Say, 3 years from now, what would you like to expand into?
I'm still staying with the same stuff. Robotics is going to be key. And I mean, I already mentioned
Hmm.
to you, Chris, and that mower that they have. That's very intriguing. Very intriguing because one of the things is the mowing, and we all know this, there's like no margin in mowing. But if I can have something like that and reduce one person from being on site to do the routine items, I can have more people dedicating to tending to the properties. My
And
guys,
Ego has one
and it's
coming out too, don't they?
uh they have something in Europe. And anytime I
Okay,
ask
it's
them,
in
it's like,
Europe.
well, yeah, it's they're even on second generation. Because on my next trip to Europe, I gotta figure out like where I'm staying and if I can order online, have it delivered to a hotel, and then I
Yeah,
don't know how I'm gonna
exactly.
bring it back. But
Right. Y'all can
because
store
like
this for me, right?
again, like this is one of those things. Like they put something out, it's in Europe, you see it on the videos and everything, but like, does it use a battery? How does it work? There's no information on how it works. How they put it. So that's the frustrating part on all this stuff. So yes, on the robotic end, because we want to continue. I guess, yes, we have a direction that we're going because I want to continue to grow on the gardening end where native plants and um, how to better take care of your property and how to get better soil health and all that, all those things that come into it.
Right.
My guys,
And using what you already have and identifying it, because so many people get rid of things they think are
yes,
weeds when
yes,
actually some things help get rid of other things. And then, of course, you got all these different animals. They love butterflies, but yet you're killing everything that the butterflies like. So you wonder why you don't
yes,
have them anymore.
yeah.
So yeah, I
It,
love that.
it's like something crazy, and some people think I'm crazy, but people that actually come from other cultures definitely understand it. And it happened. I went to Guatemala 2 years ago, and that's where I'm from. But I went into some towns where some natives are, and they were teaching about planting. And it was just really random that I ended there. And one of the things is they were teaching how they dye for their textiles. So how they dye the cotton, and the same plant on a full moon gives you a different color than it does um, when it's not a full moon. So how do you harvest it? And yeah. So and I said, well, why? Like why? And they were explaining that the moon has a certain pull that it creates. And they said if you ever want to plant something 2 days before full moon or 2 days after full moon is when uh, nature has a lot of power, and you're going to be a lot more successful planting when it's the full moon. So I'm looking forward to doing full moon plantings, and actually even I googled it because I wasn't sure, and
Yeah,
and
this
and
information.
Google says that there's something around this. And I was explaining it to a client, and she's from India, and she said, "Well, that makes sense because some people think it's just like you know I'm battery operated and I'm just way out there." um, and and
I get it too.
and
No
and
worries.
and she said, "You know what? It makes sense. In India, we have a saying that if the moon has an effect on the earth when it's a full moon, why wouldn't it affect you as a person
Right.
when we're mostly liquid?" And and
Yeah,
and she
absolutely.
said, "So it makes sense." And apparently, I guess the earth has a stronger pull, so it helps with everything rooting better. So it's so digging more into some of those things and the native plants. And the one thing with native plants, I think native plants do have a bad rep out there also because there are people that want to plant native plants and they plant a meadow in their front yard. Now, when people look at this and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that person doing?" Because people want prim and
Hmm.
proper properties, and it's like, no, you could do native plants, and if we plan it out appropriately, you can have different blooms and you can have different things in here, making it
Exactly.
aesthetically pleasing, which will help change people's perception about native plants. So you can
Yep.
have your native plants, make it aesthetically pleasing, and then you will have the butterflies, you will have the birds, or the big
Yeah.
one is like, well, I don't want bees around me because of the pollinators, right? When if you really want a healthy garden, and these are not the ones that are stinging you. So there's a misconception even
That's
about
what I was
the
about to
poor bees.
say. People don't understand. They think any bee is going to sting. There's only a few of them that really do, and most of those come from the ground coming up and just pissed off because your loud mower just woke them up from their nap.
Yes, yes,
But I mean, it's
exactly. They're loud mower. Um, so
uh,
I guess it's going to be evolving that part of the gardening concept, right? So it's that whole
I love
property
it.
management. So that's the evolving part. So it's not about getting rid of employees. A lot of people talk about AI and you're getting rid of everything, and or the robots are making burgers. It's like how can I use that person to help me produce a better product that does require that extra care?
Yes, I think that's great. I think that's great. And what else I think is great because I love that none of this was scripted. That we just got to come on here and
Nope.
talk. We've had a few conversations on the phone throughout this time, just a little here and there, about products and what we're doing. But this has been really cool. I love it. And I think this is something that's really going to be valuable to a lot of landscapers, whether they're, again, starting new or thinking they're transitioning or even just wanting to get into more, things with, again, native plants. And there's a lot I think that we can teach out there in something so simple as a conversation that others can listen to and learn from. But I would love to set up something to where we can send something out, and that way people could come and, can ask questions, and we can answer the
You
questions for
know,
them.
I think we must be connected at some level. Because I was just about to say,
Right.
I was just about to say two different things here,
Yeah.
right? I think maybe having a format like this, where people can ask questions. Obviously, I would prefer for them to be pre-submitted so that we can narrow down the questions and be helpful, because there's
Absolutely.
some questions that are the same question asked a slightly different way, but it's the same thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
to get us started, and that's one thing, and including all of these groups that are out there, the sustainable groups, right? I would be happy for them to join and ask some questions, because I would want
Right.
this to be like a living normally document, right? A living video where they can refer back to the with those
Yeah.
common
And they can
questions, or
take
where
this
they're
to
trying.
City Hall.
Yes, exactly. They should be
you
taking
know?
this to City Hall. That's one thing. And then the other thing I would like is to get these manufacturers on the ball, or maybe for us to interview a few of them, like have them come on. Um,
Yeah.
Listen, it's not it, and honestly, it's not about bashing one manufacturer and the other. It's about, what do you have? What makes you good? What makes you great? Why is your platform, or like in my case, why is your platform deficient on one thing here? Do you have any plans to fix this, or how are you going to grow? I have one particular
Right.
manufacturer that wants to do a full setup with me, a different manufacturer. And there's only one thing that's holding me back, because they do have the ride-on mower, but it has the built-in battery. So, nothing against Mean Green, because obviously they actually were pioneers in this thing, but you can have a $40,000 Mean Green machine that's a battery that's sitting there in the fall because you're not mowing, and now you have a $40,000 battery sitting there, right? Um, Now, if you had an adapter where I can get that energy out, now I'm even rolling out my battery out in the field, right? That's actually on the manufacturer I'm talking into right now. It's like, okay, well, they probably will have something. So I'm like, okay, well, then I'll
Has
feel
like dual
good, because
purpose.
then, yes. But asking those questions on the manufacturer, and like, okay, you have this and it's all great. We see it, we understand it. Where are you going with this?
Right.
What do you want people to know about what you're doing? Especially some of the manufacturers that are dual manufacturers, that are gas and battery, right? Or what they're seeing from their own users. I think it could be both things. Um, I think we could grill them as manufacturers, but grill them
Yeah, I think it'd be
on
great.
in a nice
So,
way, in a nice way.
yeah,
Tell us
absolutely. But,
about, yeah.
we can say why it's better. But again, there's always going to be that doubt of like, they're getting some kind of kickback from this company or what. We can prove it to our customers around
Mhm.
here. We can prove it to anyone that wants to come and see, and will demonstrate. But these manufacturers need to come and explain what they did, why they did it. That shows that they're better at this.
Wh-
It's
Why they're
simple
good,
little things,
and why they're good,
or
and
not
maybe
necessarily.
not,
Yeah, yeah, not but a high
because
place on the market.
right, yeah, because not necessarily better, because once you're talking apples to apples, it becomes almost this, like, about the
It's
same
a
on the
personal
manufacturers.
preference a
A
lot too that goes in
preference,
there.
right? There's a preference, battery charging, your roadmap.
Yep.
It's kind of like
Yep.
Ego has had me excited for 3 years, saying that they're coming out with their commercial ride-on mower, and then every year at Equip. they changed the year to an additional year. Now it says 27. And it's like, guys, come on! I want to grow faster. Like, can we get moving?
Right.
Um, but it
Right.
but it keeps me waiting because I know what the battery and what I'm going to be able to do with that battery. So they have a vision, and it's how can they articulate that vision to anyone that's looking to get into this, right? Because if I make a decision right now, I want to know how it's going to impact me even down the line so I can make more money.
Absolutely. And that's kind of
So,
the name of the game, the efficiency, all that still leads back to we do need to feed our families and
yes.
make sure
Oh,
that, we
listen,
are making money the best we can.
I was telling someone the other day, consulting on their business, and they said, well, how about when you have employees and here and there? And I said, listen, if you wanted to run a charity, just open up a church, you know? But and they're high overhead. So I'm like, listen, you are high overhead. You made the decision that you want to be high overhead. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's your decision. But now let's make sure we feed that high overhead, right? Um, and they're all gas. And they're looking at adding a couple of battery operated things in there that are going to strategically make them um, not competitive. They're going to make them different in their market, and it's going to drive clients to them. So it's about growing that client base and reducing some of those costs. So yeah, I think it needs to be twofold. One, getting all these sustainable groups or even landscapers. I think it would be good sustainable landscapers out there. And then another one for manufacturers, because I think they need to come on and tell us about what they do, what they're doing, what's great about them, and where they're going. Because even
So you
all their
summed it
equipped
up perfect
videos are
right there.
all their equipped videos are horrible because you're not getting a lot of information. It's just a lot of excitement and let me get clicks, right? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
mainly
not
the
really
information
what
comes from
featured.
people out there showing it. And they need to not rely on just YouTube people showing the product. The manufacturers really got to know what they got and
Listen,
advertise what they really have. But
I don't have anything against YouTubers and when where it's
no,
Ryobi
I
or
love it
Milwaukee or
because,
um but
hmm
at the end of the day, most of them are not end users. So and they're getting paid, they are getting paid to talk about a product or promote a product, but they're not the actual user out there. They're not the ones every day.
right.
I know you've probably done the same thing because I've done when I've tested equipment now, I take pictures, videos, and send them in, and I've already been told that I definitely send a lot of information in. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Same here.
what are you doing with the information, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's something that I'm passionate about. We're getting information out there to make things better. Um, so
hmm
so so yes, I definitely think that it would be good to invite some manufacturers and get them answering some of those questions. Listen, even Palenque, I would love to get Palenque on here because they have great, and they've been in business for over 50 years, I think, something crazy like that. They're out in they're French, um, and they're known for equipment that's for vineyards and all that stuff. So obviously they're big in
Nice.
California, but they're getting into some of this other stuff. But like yeah, Palenque, when are you coming out with your mower? Those things like you want to sell blowers, and they have some blowers, hedge trimmers, definitely the pruners and the battery operated pruners. But again, you got the cable and you got the batteries. But yeah, when are you coming out
Right.
with mower? Because that would make me consider more your company as a landscaper,
Right.
knowing what we know. But someone that doesn't know says these are great, which they are. But then what are you going to do with the other pieces, right? So even those things,
Right.
I think are important. You used Atlas, I had never heard of Atlas until you posted something about Atlas. I'm thinking like, what's this company? Is it really that good? Or what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't believe I used them all, before I even knew Ego or, they came out, and it wasn't expensive. And, I mean, they were 40-volt batteries, and now they went up to like a 48 thing, 4080. But I mean, they're still consistently. great, products. But again, that's a whole nother battery, whole nother charger, and they don't have zero turns. They don't have all the equipment that I need. So I just have that as some backup if, there's a small trailer or someone wants to go. And we keep all of our ego stuff with us because, Atlas has got great chainsaws, great push mowers, pole saws. Wasn't too happy with their hedge trimmers, but still those three items, I know that I can send those out with someone and they're going to be happy and they can go have a full day's work with no problems. But
They'll
they're going
do
to have those
get all the
specific
basics, right?
batteries and chargers.
Yep.
Yep, where we're going to
So,
stick to one brand.
right. So, yeah, that's something that I think would be great getting some manufacturers on here. Not wonky, because if you start with me with the milliamps and kilowatt hours, you lose me. I'll start snoozing. I'll let you run the show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
No, we'll get them to
it's a
speak in normal layman's terms
yeah.
because,
I think that's the best thing. That the best thing that you can do. And listen, that's how we all are. We just want to be able to understand.
absolutely. Well, cool. Then
I
I
thought
think
I had
then
a
we've got
question for you.
a
Now I
good game
forgot.
plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those two
Uh
things would be great. I thought I had a question for you, and I forgot what the question was. But yeah, you're the authority on solar power. Um, it would be good to get Ego to have something that just plugs right into the PGX, the main charger, so that we could charge
Yeah,
batteries.
I'd love to be able to skip a step because right now
Yes,
I'm having to come in and then go through a solar charge controller, go
yeah,
into the two, big batteries in
yeah,
series, and
yeah,
then plug in Ego,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then go to the PGX if I want. But to
That would
skip
be
all
that
that and
would
just go
be
solar straight in, that would be awesome.
that would be a dream for me, because then I would really go like solar panel stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'll come up with a question for you down the line. But yeah, I think it's a good game plan. I count me in.
yeah,
I think we, between you and me, we have the knowledge to help people understand. And again, you're like me, where we want to share the knowledge. It's not like, why are you
right.
sharing this knowledge? Who's paying you? Well, look at my bank account. No one.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the competition is in just regular landscaping that's big. And what we've doing, the competition is nothing. And I'm not worried about it getting, real big because we already have our foundation. And it's going to take a while till it gets so big to where it's going to be such a big competition of, oh, well, which electric lawn care are we going to use?
Right. Right.
So why not share the wealth, share the
Yes.
ideas?
Yep.
And it's always still learning experiences with us because, just in these conversations, I know I've, thought of some things and learned some things I didn't think about from talking to you, and you've done the same. And I mean, that's what this is for. So this is
Yep.
great. And I
Yep.
think our
And
next step is, I want to, of course, keep doing this, but I'm going to start sending some stuff out to, all our subscribers on all our platforms of, encouraging landscapers, people like that to, send in questions to not only, just join, listening, but even if they want to come on sometimes and stuff and ask us
right.
questions,
Yep.
just make it a nice open platform of,
I think that would be
again,
very
learning how to
good.
transition.
I think that would be very good.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
on my end, sending it out to people once this video is complete, sending it out to people and telling them, hey, this is something that you want to hop on and ask them questions, because especially with a lot of sustainable groups, or people looking to come up with plans for their towns, that's where I get a lot of questions. So it's like, here's this. Now you can just, every single time someone asks a question, just forward it.
Exactly. And when someone else goes, is there anyone else doing this? Like, got proof.
Well,
We got Amner.
I actually that, and it's not just us. There's the Mo Green or Mo Moore or something. He's out in Connecticut. He's really good. I've never really had a one-on-one conversation with him, but he seems to be in line with us from everything that I see. The same type of mindset. There's a lot of
Cool. We'll reach out
landscapers
to him.
in Florida, and there's Texas. I've seen Illinois. I see a lot.
Hmm.
Obviously there's California, Colorado. I mean, if these guys exist, well, we know they exist. Um, I think they
They're probably
need to.
thinking kind of like I did for the first few years. I was like, everyone's got to be doing this. And then looking around, I was like, wow, no one is. And then years later, still, it's like, wow, no one is. And then people are starting to, but it's like, wow.
I think it
So,
would
I
be
mean,
good to
it's
get
never
more
too
people to
late.
come on that are doing this, because I think we have a lot of shared experiences that we have done on our own,
Right.
and it's the same thing. So it's not like it's a different world for everyone. I think it would be good to get other landscapers so that, you know, we'll ask those guys in Texas how they handle those big leaves, you know.
That's it,
uh,
bringing a forklift.
yeah, you know. Uh,
Oh,
but
goodness.
I'm sure we'll get someone in Texas that will tell us, what are you talking about? It's the same way that I
Yeah, they'll
used
give
to
us a
do it out
measurement of,
in
they'll have
Illinois.
Georgia for us, Texas, and then yours. Put them all together
There's
and
gonna
see.
Yep, let's get those leaves. There's people in Canada. There's some people in Canada that do this also. So yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
game plan to get the two different ones. The manufacturers, I think, is key if they want to grow their business. If they don't, it's up to them.
Yeah. Good luck. you
Now they
know,
got big names, they got
but
big
no, sure.
budgets, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But no,
But
after
that's
talking, with some of the guys, you know, lately, I do feel, with some of the guys that opened a place here with Ego, I'm sure a few of them would come on and talk about it. So I'm going to reach out to them. And yeah, I mean, let's just start hitting, all our contacts, all the people because my problem is I'll get asked a question on like, say, a TikTok or a Instagram, and I'm never on it really personally on any of that stuff much. It's just, business, but then Jen will be, monitoring a lot of it. I'll just sometimes, post some different stuff, but I won't see the comment until like way later. And it's like, oh, sorry, here, let me answer your question. So that's why it'd be great to have some, one spot where people can send in all this stuff. And that way we
yes.
can stay on top of these questions, answer the
Yeah.
questions. They can,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, just a
monthly
group.
basis, monthly
Yeah.
basis, clear it out, yeah, I need to learn TikTok apparently. Keep getting told that I need to learn TikTok, but that's the future.
Every time I do, it brings up I'll be like somewhere where it can't be loud. And all of a sudden it'll bring up some crazy video with some crazy music. So I'm like, sorry. Like a barber shop or something. It's like, I
Uh,
was just
uh,
trying to check a message.
yeah,
But
I got to learn that one. But yeah, I think it's a good plan to help everyone out.
awesome. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Amner, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, man. And
Well,
I look
thank you.
forward to the future in this because I see a lot of help that can be done all around. And
Yep.
I think it's
And I
really,
and
really
it, just
cool.
like
I
this
know if,
conversation today, you said you got some ideas, I got some ideas, and we continue growing. You know, it's I always mention you because I'm like, there's a guy in Georgia, uh, and that's how I refer to you. It's a guy in Georgia, and we share information, like tactics, or we look at each other's posts, and that's how we get ideas. And it's like, wow, why would you do that? Like, not like he's going to be my competitor right here, right?
yeah, exactly. Again, people
But
don't get it. It's like it's something so unique in a field that, yes, is very saturated, but and again, that's why I say kind of reinventing landscaping or reinventing lawn care, however we want to label it, because it's a whole different way of doing it that is going to be huge, but it's going to take some time to get there. And so
yep,
immediate competition is ridiculous to think. And especially the way houses and I mean, they build a whole housing addition in the amount of time it used to take to build a house. So, I mean, it's not going away. Landscaping is not going away, but gas landscaping is going to be because, again, regardless of all the great factors, the efficiency is going to be the one that people are like, wait a second, I can make a lot more money. Okay. you know,
a
and
lot more
then they'll
money,
see the other bonuses. But
safer. It's just like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the benefits, and I didn't know a lot of them until I was trying to get a grant, when doing the book. Well, actually, before the book, I'm trying to see about a grant in, buying a bunch of electric stuff, and then got turned down for it because NSF was kind of like, eh. I mean, the answer was ridiculous, but all the research I had to do on exactly like formaldehyde, all the stuff that's in that exhaust that comes out that you're breathing in is so freaking toxic. And I'm thinking about all these blowers that have, the screens that will take off because they wouldn't start right, the screens on the exhaust, and just, little things that people think, they're not doing anything. But that, and then of course the decibel ratings are so high above deafening, all this stuff is just like, wow, there really is a huge environmental impact as well. And then with having a daughter who has got, sensibility issues like, just, how
The
you have so many
noise,
kids
yeah.
on the spectrum to where, yeah, the noise just drives them nuts. And, old elderly, I mean, you've got it all across the board. And then of course with COVID, now everyone working from home, schooling from home, mobile stuff. It's just, I can see all the benefits that are just kind of a bonus. Because at first I was
It's
like,
a
hey, gas
bonus.
prices are getting crazy high. I got to figure out something different, and then came that, oh, wow, well, these work a lot better. It kind of rose like that. And that's why I just, I feel blessed that it all happened, the way it did. And, the learning experience has been amazing. And, if, going back in time, I would never change anything, maybe give myself some hints that, hey, maybe learn what, MPP is, or, certain, Life Pro versus just a regular lithium, little things like that. But that again, that's what the book's for. That's what the course is for, to,
And
help others.
we've been there right now. And like you said, you asked me that question, like, what would you change? And it's hard to think of something that you would change, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of a trick question because I was hoping we wouldn't change nothing. Just give yourself a little advice of maybe don't buy that one. Or if you do, just be ready for this.
Yep. Which is not a
Right.
big deal at that point. All right. Well, thank you, because we can talk for hours. Well,
Yeah.
you
No
have a
kidding.
great
No kidding.
day.